Chris, welcome back to the show. It's always a pleasure to see you. Can I begin by asking you about the trial that begins, I think tomorrow, of a rather famous woman around these parts, formerly of this parish, by the name of Ghislaine Maxwell. What can you tell us? Is that being eagerly anticipated, or are people not really much occupied by it now?
No, I think it'll get some traction. It's a fascinating case because it has so many legal anomalies. There's strong evidence that Jeffrey Epstein may not have killed himself, may have been murdered. Certainly the Julie Brown, the investigative reporter for the Miami Herald, who's done the most extensive work on the case, believes quite firmly that he was murdered. There are supposedly caches of videotapes that Epstein had set up security cameras in his residences, including in his bathrooms, that have all sorts of figures on them, from Bill Clinton to Donald Trump to Ehud Barak. Those have all vanished. I assume the FBI has them. We don't know where they are. Ghislaine Maxwell herself, who procured these underage women for Epstein and for his friends, obviously knows a lot. A lot of people think that they're going to strike some kind of a deal to protect the circle that he's in. And many of the other procurers, she wasn't the only one, have never been charged. So yeah, I think there's interest in it from the salacious standpoint. I'm interested in it just because it seems quite clear that all sorts of powerful people who ran in his circle are not only never going to be charged, but never called out.
Quite so. And all the things you've just said, in a way, answer what was my next question, which is, why isn't this going to be televised? We see from O.J. Simpson onwards, we had a camera in every courtroom, it seemed. The Rittenhouse trial just ended just last week, was endlessly televised. Why would this case, involving as it does all these big names, not be televised?
Well, I think that there's clearly powerful forces at work that intend to cover up the activities of all sorts of members of the ruling elite on both of the political divides, Republicans and Democrats, of many Harvard academics, including Steven Pinker, Alan Dershowitz, Larry Summers, Bill Gates. I mean, all these people, you're talking about the ruling elite. And that's why a lot of people suppose that some kind of a deal will be made with Ghislaine Maxwell to keep her quiet. But if there's been one constant throughout this case, we go back 10 years to the initial charges against Epstein, it's that all of these people have been protected. I don't see that changing.
No, I mean, important as the sexual crimes are, and if true, the allegations are horrific and despicable, the bigger picture is, for me, even more important. It's quite clear to me, as an observer and as someone who knows the Maxwell family extremely well, that this was all an intelligence operation from the beginning. That although disgusting, dirty men were doing dirty things to underage girls, the real purpose was to get the goods on those people for exploitation, commercial and political, and intelligence. Is that how you see it?
Well, in the court documents, there is a reference to Epstein working at least as an FBI informant. So yes, I think we know that as a fact. If you look at the way intelligence services operate anywhere in the world, of course, blackmail is key. J. Edgar Hoover had files on all of the powerful. It's why they could never remove him in order to keep them in check. So I think we are wandering into a field of speculation, but I don't think it's unreasonable speculation. And of course, Epstein had very close ties to Israel. So, other than that reference within the court documents of him having a working relationship with the FBI, I don't know that we have anything hard on which to argue that this was an intelligence operation, but it certainly smells like one.
Well, it's just that when you get very powerful and significant figures, former presidents, former prime ministers, members of royal families, regularly in attendance of a man now proven to have been a sex criminal, you've got to ask yourself, what did all these people, Bill Gates and so on, what did all these people see in this Jeffrey Epstein? Did they just enjoy his company, his taste in art? It's kind of obvious that they were drawn into his web somehow. And the fact that videos and recording devices of all kinds were in use in his various palatial homes leads me, at least, simple guy me, to believe that these people were effectively being blackmailed.
Yeah, I mean, look, he stole $50 million from Wexler, who was the head of Victoria's Secret, and Wexler never wanted to charge him. So that begs the question. What did Epstein have on Wexler that made Wexler want to swallow $50 million? But again, these are all questions that have not been answered, and I suspect, given the panoply of figures involved, will probably never be answered. My supposition is that the FBI has these tapes, which means no one will ever see them.
Let's turn to cheerier matters. Your president, how is he doing? He looked pretty poorly the last time I saw him, but he's now promising that his stimulus package is going to deliver the goods. How's that going down in America?
Not well, as the opinion polls have repeatedly shown. He just announced, by the way, that will be running for re-election in 2024, and all the polls show that in a matchup with Donald Trump, he would lose. Most of this money, what was going to directly towards people in need, has been sliced out, largely by lobbyists in Washington. So the bill will funnel large sums of money either to the states or to corporations. But, trickle-down economics has long been exposed as a kind of farce. Very little will reach the people in need. And but that's not surprising. Biden has served corporate interests. They used to call him Senator Credit Card. He was out of the state of Delaware, where for tax reasons, a lot of large credit card companies are located, who, by the way, at the time employed his son, Hunter Biden, for astronomical sums. He was picked by the ruling elite to carry on the disastrous policies that have given rise to figures like Trump and the deep malaise, frustration, and anger, most of it legitimate, on the part of a working class, and especially a white working class, that has been dispossessed and been dispossessed by both parties. Both parties have been complicit in this, which is why the established Republican elite has people like Liz Cheney, for instance, the daughter of Dick Cheney, the vice president, because she's against Trump, is largely bonded now with the Democratic Party elite, as long as all these figures, traditional figures of the Republican leadership, Mitt Romney, the people who
George W. Bush.
George Bush, right? Exactly. So I think Biden almost guarantees loss for the Democrats in the House and the Senate in 2022, and I think assures the rise in 2024 of either Trump or a Trump-like figure, Pompeo, DeSantis, the governor of Florida. I don't know who. We don't know who it will be, but it will be somebody in that vein.
All of which begs a question. I've asked you it before. Forgive me asking it again. You can't blame the elite for seeking to get a president that will be pliable to them into the White House. But how come Joe Biden was the best that they could find? What is it about the American political system? It could equally apply here to Boris Johnson, I readily concede. How come Joe Biden's the best that corporate America could put up to be president?
Because the system's ossified. It doesn't work. The Democratic and Republican parties don't function as real political parties. There is no base. It's all spectacle. It's driven by insane amounts of money, $1 billion it takes in order to run a presidential campaign. You can't run for the House of Representatives unless you raise millions of dollars. Well, where does that money come from, and who are you beholden to? So the entire system is seized up. And I think Biden is kind of emblematic of how ossified, anemic, and largely, at least in terms of popular support, irrelevant it is. You look at the decay of any system, late Weimar Germany. Who did they cough up? Franz von Papen. And that didn't last too long. So I think we're watching a similar process whereby the political system is so decayed, it's manifested in a decayed figure like Biden.